Hello, James. We are live at 5. It's This Week in Events.
I'm excited. This is the highlight of my week at the moment. So I told you how bad my week's been going, but this is the highlight. I love spending time with you, Maria.
I feel so rude.
It's great. I know, it's great. It's great. So how's your week been anyway?
Well, apart from that backhanded compliment, it's actually very good. But that was a backhanded compliment. No, my week has been very good. I can't believe we're already at Thursday. I seem to have not quite enough time in my day to get everything done. It's busy. Yeah. It's busy, which is wonderful. And what's great today is we are broadcasting and streaming live to lots of other places. So if you can't miss us now. We are everywhere, aren't we? We are everywhere. So we're taking over the internet.
And it's great because I was looking today, just as we were kind of updating thisweekinevents.com. People go there and they get all the show notes. But this is episode 18 now.
You keep doing that to me. You count. You keep counting.
I count them. That's pretty good, considering this just started as an idea. Let's just try one of these and see what happens. So, yeah, this is great. We're having a lot of fun.
We are.
So, if you're joining us for the first time.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to say, for those of you that are joining us the very first time, don't know who in goodness James and Maria are. So my name's James Taylor. I'm a keynote speaker on creativity, innovation, and artificial intelligence.
He didn't tell me we were going to do this. Who am I? Who am I today? I'm Maria Franzoni. I run an international speaker bureau, and I work with speakers to help them to maximize their speaking businesses.
Beautiful. And the concept behind This Week in Events is that every week we bring a fantastic guest who talks about something that's happening in the events industry. They could be from the speaker side or the bureau side. They might be from the client or the events professional side as well. So this is us just having little conversations with interesting people, and I hope you enjoy your time if you're here for the very first time.
So I'm going to introduce our guest today, and there's quite a good introduction here, so I'm going to read it so I don't make any mistakes here. Our guest has been working in the meetings and events industry for several years. Don't be fooled by his youthful looks, okay? He has worked directly with conference organizers, internally for speaker bureaus, and internally also for talent management agencies. In the pandemic, he launched a new venture, SUMO-X, a digital recruitment agency specializing in placing industry professionals in celebrity, influencer, and speaker booking roles. So please welcome our lovely guest, Yogi Patel. Hello, Yogi.
Hello. Thank you for having me. How are you?
We're great. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us and looking so smiley and happy. I really appreciate that. So Yogi, great introduction there. Tell us a little bit about your background in the industry.
Yeah, so, oh God, where do I begin? Look, like you said, I've worked in conferences and events for a number of years, way back when we organized engagements with the likes of Rowan Atkinson, Tony Blair, Prince Charles, many others. And then I got my degree in pharmacy because I'm Indian and that's what we do. I did that for a number of years. Look, I really enjoyed it. And the takeaway from it was I spent a lot of time in the corporate world with the pharma companies, sitting in those conferences, getting a bit disillusioned by the speakers that were booked by the companies and thinking, who's running these things, in the background. So I returned to the industry and I worked with Speakers Corner, with Nick and Tim Gold, and then as a director at Kruger-Cowan with Mark and Gina, all of whom I respect very highly in this industry. So, loved my time there. But like you said, I've been really lucky to see the industry from all angles, directly working on the conference side, working with the speaker bureaus, and then working within the agency that was Kruger-Cowan. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell, I guess, my background.
And Yogi, what was the story behind this new business? Because this is a really interesting story, and it's a business I think its time is probably perfect. You've really hit the zeitgeist just now in terms of what's going on in the industry. So tell us a story about how it came about.
Well, timing being perfect, a lot of people would think we're crazy doing it during COVID, when by all intents and purposes, people think everybody's getting laid off. But okay, so look, COVID hit and I was looking on my social feeds. I've got so many friends who are in the industry, agents who I know personally or on Facebook, and across all of my social media feeds, and I knew this, there were a raft of redundancies, and they were all looking for jobs. And here's the issue with finding a job as an agent or in this creative industry. You type in talent manager into jobs, and LinkedIn suddenly isn't your best friend because it thinks you're a recruiter or an HR business partner. And you would have seen the posts by people saying, nobody understands what we do in this industry. And it's right. You know, I'd never worked with a recruiter when I was back in the industry because nobody gets who we are. So after having a chat with a few people, I got in touch with a gentleman called Nick Brand, who runs SUMO. Now, SUMO's been going on for about a decade. They've already established themselves as London's sort of #1 digital talent recruitment agency. So they've got a good pedigree in the space, especially with the influencer and social media market. So I've known them for years, and we got talking, bouncing a few ideas around together, and we thought, hold on, this traditional talent management world is in need of a little bit of a change or a little bit of a push, especially now when people need support. Because before we came about, you didn't know an agent, you didn't know an industry professional was ever moving until they moved. It was all done behind closed doors. So we set this up, like I said, at possibly the worst time in the industry had seen. Even the last recession didn't come close. You know, we thought, we're crazy. But then we started having conversations, you know, and got talking with the speaker bureaus, got talking with the agencies. A lot of them were saying, God, where have you been? And look, in December, we placed 5 agents into pretty fairly established agencies, and so many people have inquired, even today. So I'm blown away.
You know, it's so good to hear that there are agencies and bureaus who are recruiting, because that means business is coming back. That means they're getting busier. That is such good news. So, I mean, just for that, it's absolutely worth having you here. Thank you so much, Yogi. Tell me, are speaker bureaus and agents looking for something different these days, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone who's worked at a speaker bureau recently knows how we've had to adapt. Obviously, quite a number of them, in fact, almost all of them have gone into their virtual events. We're getting asked for things that we didn't see coming. Mental whiplash is what I've been getting recently with the types of requests. Look, if you ask somebody what they want, they'll always say, I want a faster horse, until you give them a car. And this time of turbulence has really got people to think more creatively about how they add value to their clients. Speaker bureaus in particular, obviously this is all about the speaker industry, so let's cover that. Speaker bureaus are well established as having great corporate contacts, great corporate customers, and they've got direct contact with so many influential people who have a story to tell, great business minds or creatives, and many of them don't have representation. So they're not doing anything on the social media space or influencer space. So we are getting, oddly, inquiries from speaker bureaus saying, we want somebody to promote some of those keynote speakers and business minds to work more strategically as a full 360 with the brands we work with. Your Reckitt Benckiser's, your big, so many exist. Because they have internal promotions, sound bites, voiceovers that they need doing for their corporate teams. And then on the back of that, they get all of these virtual events. Look, I remember when I worked at a speaker bureau, you know, sometimes we'd get a dozen, 2 dozen inbound inquiries a day. You know, the types of inquiries we'd get were, you know, we need an aeronautical speaker with a wooden leg who's run across the Sahara, but also has written a business book. And you'd have a fantastic database where you could tick boxes based on the theme and spew out a list of names with biographies and send that off to the customer. And frankly, it was a bit of churn. You know, you send out as many shortlists as you can, and whatever came back, great, we'll take it. That model doesn't work as well in this time because the phones have stopped ringing and people have to adapt. In essence, what we're finding is people at who work at speaker bureaus, who are consultants for these companies and advising them on who's best to go on their stages, they need to start thinking much more like agents do. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. There are some fantastic speaker bureaus out there who really hustle and know where to get clients. But then there are those that have really gotten used to the phones ringing, and those I think are the ones that have struggled a bit more during the COVID period. And actually, that's where having our network of, because it's not only agents we place, so it's not that we're saying get an agent who looks after, I don't know, Nagaman Chetty or someone to come over and work in our team. It's who else do you have that works in these creative agencies? Is it a marketing guy? Is it an influencer marketing person? Is it a copywriter? And someone who understands this space with talent management, and how can they bolster what we currently do and add value in a different way? So I think,
Yogi, I love the mental whiplash. I'm going to have to use that. That's a good one. I think we've all experienced that over the past 12 months. So I'm interested. Like, you're talking about these different roles, bureau agents. How do you actually work with the clients? I guess on the one side, and that client could be a bureau, it could be an agency, it could be a speaker management company, it could actually be a speaker that wants a private office and to bring in that talent there. And then how do you work with the candidates, the talent, I guess, on the other side?
It's a really good question. Okay, let's take this in two parts. So let's take the bureau side first. Look, the number one question I get asked undoubtedly by every bureau, every agency out there, I know it's coming every time, is, are agents and bureaus paid the same? What's the going rate? And I remember when I was in the industry, I hadn't a clue. I didn't know what people were paid. I didn't know what the going rate was. I didn't know what was fair, whether you needed to pay commission only or commission at all, or just a flat salary. A lot of it is, look, because we're working with so many agencies and so many bureaus, while a lot of that information is confidential and the bureaus do trust us to be incredibly discreet with their, how the running of their business, it's an educational piece. One, they've never worked with a recruiter before because nobody understands them, but it's getting them to understand the market, getting them to see what other things are out there, understanding their business and how they drive, their revenue, and where they might have gaps. So a lot of working with the bureaus and the agencies is an educational piece. Moreover than that, culture. If you're going to hire, you hire 70% for culture, 30% whether they can do their job. I'm not saying whether they can do their job isn't important, but if you don't pick the right people with the right mindset that gel or can speak to the type of speakers and talent that you work with, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's not going to have the voice of customer that you want with your clients. On the other side, with the candidates, look, I'll always go back to how it all started. We came at this looking at the industry from, look, I took it quite personally when COVID hit, and I saw all around me these agents losing their livelihoods. These are the same guys who gave their evenings, weekends. They'd leave work at the end of the day with a stack of call sheets, waiting for the phone to ring, just in case that flight at midnight got cancelled, and then get up early in the morning and work weekends and go to shows, which sounds glamorous, don't get me wrong, but they really slogged hard for it. And unfortunately, when times were bad, they were the first people to be furloughed and then sadly let go. And while we do have associations which look after and represent the interests of agents and industry professionals in the creative industries, when it comes to recruiting, there's nobody really looking after them. Now, I came at this as an agent. So the way I like to look at it is I'm acting as an agent to other agents or to other speaker consultants at speaker bureaus. I'm the one that's trying to forge their careers. And when I work with candidates, I call them talent or clients, I will try to understand them like any agent would their own celebrities or their own talent. What gets you up in the morning? What is the best culture? What gives you that buzz of electricity in the morning? Who do you like talking to? What do you watch on TV? Where do you see your career going in 20 years. Where have you come from and how did you get there? And let's figure out a plan. Just like any agent would when they're sitting with an artist or a speaker. If we want to pivot you onto the stage of this big corporate, but you're not quite there yet, how do we take those stepping stones to get you there eventually? And frankly, I've been blown away because so many agents are signing on to what I'd like to call my roster. They've actually suggested I call it my roster to work with me exclusively and say, look, it's such a small industry. I can't put my name out there and say I'm looking because I don't know if it's ever going to get back, or, I'm scared. There were so many people hunting out there. Everybody's posting that they're looking for work. The agencies don't know who's good and who's bad. So they come to me and say, look, I'll trust you to just put my name out there and go where it feels right. So I think, there are two different viewpoints on this. How do you educate the bureaus and the agencies on the market? And for the candidates, I always say this, listen, never listen to the naysayers. I was blown away that we placed 5 agents in December and the inquiries are still coming in, and shocks me every day when I get another phone call to say, we're looking for somebody spectacular. We need to grow. And we all know the pipeline. Events, people start booking 6 months, 9 months, sometimes a year ahead. With the vaccine coming out, those inquiries are really increasing. And there's been a huge uplift.
Great. Wow, what a masterclass in an answer that was. That was amazing. There's a couple of things I want to pick you up on to just
sure.
That culture thing, you're so right. I've worked for 2 different bureaus and my own, and the culture is very different. And the fit is so important. You're absolutely right on that. I love that you call yourself the agent's agent. I'm scared that you talk about planning 20 years ahead, because I'd be looking at a Zimmer frame at that point. And it's interesting that you say that agents don't know who's good out there. And actually, one of the Facebook users has said agencies don't know who's good or great or average. In the bureau world, we do, because I'll tell you why. Because we know when we've lost a booking to somebody else and that name keeps coming up, and you think, oh, I really, so I know who my good competitors are because they steal business, they land business. And some of them I'm very happy because I like them, we're friends. And some of them I get very annoyed. But Harry Whitbread has a question, because I was going to ask you about the salaries, which you covered, but Harry's got a question. I'm going to go to his question. He's asking, what do agents do that is different and beyond bureaus? And seeing as you have been both in a bureau and an agent, what would you say is the difference?
Okay. Oh, gosh. Agents are going to hate me for this if I give away all their tricks, but okay. It's all about who is the audience. So when a talent walks into an agency, we sit down with them, we spend hours with them, and then we have fortnightly briefings with them. The first thing that we do is look at their socials. Who is their audience demographic? Who are they being followed and commented on by on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok? Who watches their shows? Who reads the same articles that they read? Who reads their columns? What age range is that? And then, if you're trying to get them into the corporate world, which brands do those audience members follow? Do they buy Bounty, or do they buy Plenty, or do they buy Nurofen, or do they buy generic aspirin? What a good agent will do is they'll start from the very basics, understanding the audience of whoever the speaker or the business leader is, understanding what that audience loves, which brands they're affiliated with, and then directly using their business development skills, attacking those brands and saying proactively, hey, I know you haven't given me an inquiry yet. Are you working on any campaigns? And working with the publicists, the PR companies, the PR teams within those big corporates, the marketing teams of those big corporates, and saying, I have somebody who fits your brand perfectly. You might not have something today, but I want to put them on your radar. This is why they'd be perfect, because they match your audience demographic. Imagine being on the corporate side of that and getting that call, being flattered, frankly, that your brand you might even educate them and say, your brand has this audience demographic. They may not know that. So you're adding value, adding insight to that brand. And then you're also saying, I've got somebody that matches everything about you, and they share your passion, your voice, your consumer profile. Let's work together. And it's a slow process. It takes practice, and it's not easy. But James, for example, imagine if a speaker bureau did that. And I know some may have done. It's it's rare to find. If you've got them, they're gems. But if a speaker bureau called you and said, James, you know what? Looking at your audience, it's this age range, this demographic, they like these things. What would you say if I reached out to Facebook for you to get your corporate gig based off of the match? That's
that's you would, as a speaker, you would go, thank you for a start. But I mean, it's almost like as you're talking about this, and I think about those different roles and responsibilities, you mentioned like business development. So this is in my head, the way I think a lot of bureaus, a lot of them are kind of inbound sales people. So the inquiries are coming in, they're turning it. Some are very good at converting, and some are actually very good at not just converting, but upselling into other things. But that role, the biz dev role, is, I think it must be quite hard to come from the more traditional inbound sales role to become the biz dev, because there's a strong research component, I guess, to it. There's the different. I feel there's kind of different piece. I would love if there was someone that was able to do both and have that sense and have that interest and that curiosity, which is something I talk about. So I'm wondering. So you mentioned like on the kind of the research, and you mentioned some things. Obviously, they're going to use certain tools to find out in terms of brand alignment, who they're talking about, who's your audience. For you personally, could we talk a lot on this show about tools and apps and things? Is there an app or a tool that you found particularly useful and dealing with the mental whiplash, perhaps, or the past 12 months that our industry has gone through?
Yeah, you know what? I would like to think I'm the most organized person in the world, but hand on heart, I wasn't until I got this. Nick Brand actually recommended that I download the Due app, D-U-E. And you can get it on the iPhone. I'm sure you can get it on a Samsung as well. On the face of it, it looks like a standard reminder app. You know, you pop in a reminder, you set an alarm. But here's the kicker, and if you've got an Apple Watch like I do, I've got so much radiation around me on a daily basis. If you've, any device that you've got this app on, until you complete that task, it will send you a notification every minute, every 2 minutes, and hound you to the ends of the earth to get it done. And you feel guilty. It really does make you feel guilty to delay it or press the snooze. But it's also nice. I like having a checklist, but I'm not a handwriting person. I don't always carry my pad with me. And having that sense of keeping a notepad digitally is just, it's a game changer. So
I like that as well. There's a thing in Tibetan Buddhism. I can't remember the Tibetan name for it, but it basically means 5 times a day. That you need to pause 5 times a day and go to yourself. Am I being present? Am I doing the things? Is it just that kind of pause? And I know you can get apps that kind of prompt you 5 times a day. So this almost sounds like this is like the funky modern version of what Tibetan monks were doing, I guess, as well. So I like this. So this is called the Due app. We're going to have all the links here. Everything you've been mentioning here, we're going to have them if people go to thisweekinevents.com. Yogi, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Where should people go if they want to connect with you and learn more about the work that you're doing? Maybe they're a bureau or an agent or a speaker, or maybe they're on the other side, the talent side, the candidate side. Where should they go in to be able to connect with you?
So you can go to our website, which I know Maria will share. It's sumo-creative. You can go to my LinkedIn. Please do connect with me. I am not shy in giving my contact details out there. So once you connect with me, tap on my contact info. You'll get my email address. You'll get my mobile number. One thing I will say is I have the agent test or the creative test or the business development test. Now, I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot for saying this, but the way I test whether a candidate is really a strong biz dev type of person, or can really hustle and is worth putting out to an agency, is how creative they get when they reach out to me. You know, if they send me their LinkedIn message, that's fine. If they send me an email, that's fine. Do they send me a WhatsApp? Even better. Do they just pick up the phone and call me? Because far too rarely do you ever get people going on LinkedIn and clicking your contact info and just having the guts to pick up the phone and speak. So there's my challenge to people. You know, if you do want to have it, you just reach out.
So it down.
Yeah, make that call. So if anyone's watching this just now, and you are interested in either from the bureau or the agent side or from the candidate side, you're looking to, you're fascinated by this. Maybe you've come from being in the bureau side, you're maybe thinking in terms of more the biz dev side, or maybe you've come from a completely different field. I've just been watching the show Call My Agent, the French Parisian show, all about the lives of talent agents. And some of those, they don't come from the traditional sales perspective, but they've got a real creativity, like that kind of thing you were talking about there. Yeah. So Yogi, thank you so much for coming on this week. We're going to have all the links to go to This Week in Event. Thank you so much. And I wish you great success with your business as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. What a lovely guest. That was fabulous.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice guy. It reminds me, just when he was talking there, a book I read when I was like 14 was the biography of Michael Ovitz. I don't know if you know Michael Ovitz at all. He was a founder of CAA, the creative agents in Hollywood. And he was a brutal hustler, like really like serious, like old school kind of Hollywood hustler. But it's fascinating, that whole world of, I'm kind of envious that I don't do that job, because it sounds really cool now, biz dev, and it's a difficult market, but it sounds an interesting job.
Yeah, you'd be brilliant as well. You'd be brilliant. So, well, listen, we've been talking about bureaus and agents, etc. Yeah. I think you've got one to mention, haven't you?
We do. This show, This Week in Events, is supported and sponsored by London Speaker Bureau. London Speaker Bureau are the world's only global speaker bureau. They have offices in 18 countries around the world, and they represent the creme de la creme of the speaker world. So if you're watching just now and you're looking for a speaker, or maybe someone to come and do boardroom advisory in your organization, then go to londonspeakerbureau.com, or even better, we were just talking about LinkedIn, head over to their page at LinkedIn as well. So londonspeakerbureau.com.
Lovely. Lovely. So anyway, listen, with regards to our topic today, we were talking, because people probably don't believe that we actually rehearse, but we do.
We have that relaxed way of doing it, yes.
You can't tell. And we were talking about what could we talk about? What could our subject be? And it relates, I suppose, in a way beautifully. But it struck me that over the weekend, we have seen something unprecedented. I can't believe I've used the word, but
use the word.
Situation. I know I use that word. I use the word, but we're seeing the EU looking to sue AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca, an organisation that is, trying to protect us and save lives, over a contract. And so I thought it'd be quite interesting to talk about contracts from the, the speaker's point of view and the client's point of view, and some of the things that we need to be thinking about. And I know one of the things that you are very passionate about with your contracts, or very firm on, really, is due dates when it comes to deliver things for clients. Tell me about your due date part of your contract.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. You mentioned that this AstraZeneca, and they put in a clause there, and I remember when it was happening. My wife's, as you know, is a lawyer, and I said, I bet you they have this phrase, this word in there. And it was reasonable endeavors is the phrase. And this is a classic lawyer word. And I probably know what happened is the British would have said, or the AstraZeneca would have said, we'll use best endeavors as a thing. And the European Union would have come and said, no, we need that stronger. So they actually agreed on best reasonable endeavors, which is a total fudge of a phrase, but lawyers use that. So when it comes to contracts, due dates, I like to give myself, if we're preparing the agreement, as much wiggle room as possible. Now, I'm going to say this, and Maria, we're going to talk about contracts just now. Neither of us are lawyers, so we don't take this, this is just for kind of entertainment purposes, really. But if you are, your speaker just now and looking to get a speaker agreement, go to a good lawyer, go to a lawyer that this is what they do, because there's a craft to it as well. When it comes to due dates, I think there's key due dates, which are things like, when does the deposit get paid? When does the final payment get paid? Maybe 30 days before. What is the date of the event itself? If it is a virtual event, we may ask them to, and then we have to deliver something in advance. We might put in the date of, maybe the slides have to be delivered, or the pre-recorded recording for it as well. I try not to put those in, those due dates, because I can find it a little bit challenging. Other things you might want to have afterwards is, what is the penalty clause? If you don't receive payment, what happens if you get 2 days before your event and you still haven't received money in as well? What are the clauses there? There might be additional interest clauses as well. So due dates is something, I think, the four corners of the contract, put it right up there in front, first page, so people are really, really clear. So I'm keen on the due dates. But what about you, Maria? What are the things that you get very pernickety at when it comes to agreements?
I am pernickety. I started in retail, and we had a phrase in retail is detail. So I am a bit pernickety, and I do look at the detail. And there's a couple of things that I look at. I mean, one of the things is, a contract, you put a contract in place, in case something goes wrong. It's a bit like a prenup. You do it when you're still in love. And then if something goes wrong and there's a problem, who gets what in the divorce. And that's the same really with a contract. You've got it there as an insurance, so that if something changes, if, for example, you can't go ahead because you've organized your live in-person event, and, we're into another wave, God forbid, into another wave of pandemic, or all this lockdown, you agree what's going to happen, how are we going to act, what are we going to do. So you're trying to sort of mitigate the risk, but also know who's going to behave in what way, how you're going to behave. And one of the things that the devil in the detail, one of the things that I'm really pernickety about, because you said pernickety, I think that's quite a good word for me actually, but yeah, it's definitely a good word for me, is, so for example, when you're putting a date in a contract, I always say to my team, don't put just the date, but put the day of the week, because you would not believe how many times people get the date wrong. And when you put the day of the week and the date, they'll come back to you and say, no, it's supposed to be the Thursday. And I've had that many, many times. So don't just put the date of the event, and be quite clear on timings as well. I think that's so important. So there's Do
you put a deadline? Let's say if a client, they agree verbally or by email, the deal, whatever the deal may be, you send them the agreement, but in the agreement you say this has to be signed within 5 days or 10 days or something. Because I would imagine if you're dealing with a very busy speaker or high profile person, you don't want to be in that kind of funny stage for too long where everyone's felt they've agreed to terms, but you still don't have a signed agreement. Do you give them a limit on that?
No, so we do it another way. So when we send out our booking form, it's actually a firm offer form. So until we've got that document in our hand, it doesn't actually go as a confirmation to the speaker to say this is now definite. The speaker is only penciled, they're not confirmed. Because what tends to happen when you send it, things get changed. You might have agreed a brief with the speaker and said, listen, Mr. or Mrs. Speaker, this is what is happening, etc. And then it comes back and it's been expanded, or it's been, it's changed, the timings have changed, the audience might have changed, the topic might have changed. So it's until that is on there and the terms are agreed by the client and accepted by the client, it doesn't go to the speaker to say, right now, are you happy to accept? And if the speaker says, I'm not happy to accept, it's not confirmed. So that's how we do it. And also, until the deposit is received, we don't allow people to actually advertise the speaker's presence.
That's a good one.
Well, yeah, I'm very tight on these things. And I mean, I'm not talking for the entire London speaker, I'm talking for my office and how we did it. But I think a lot of organizations work that way because, you really want a commitment before somebody starts potentially using a big name to attract bums on seats. In the old days, now it's people in front of cameras.
So something, I don't know, this is maybe an uncomfortable question, I guess, to a bureau, but in Europe and the UK, agency laws are quite strict, where in terms of you have to be, my understanding is you have to be quite clear. Are you acting as an agent? Or is there some other kind of relationship that's going on? So usually in traditional agency agreements, I was always under the impression that the agent would negotiate the deal, but the final agreement was almost like between the speaker, let's say, and the client. And once that is contracted, almost like the agent drops away. So really the agreement is between the client and the speaker. But to do that, it has to be full transparency on the fees. Everything has to be really upfront. But my understanding when coming into the speaking business is a lot of bureaus don't seem to act that way. So even though you might contract and you're contracting with the bureau and they say we're going to take 20%, 30%, what the number is, you never actually get to see that final agreement that the bureau has with the client. So is there differences between that?
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of the big differences between agencies and bureaus. The agent is acting on behalf of the talent. The bureau is acting on behalf of the client, the client that's making the booking. So it is quite different, and the regulations are quite different. Some bureaus are very happy to be transparent. Some aren't. They work differently. It's very difficult because you can't sort of dictate to a bureau, this is the percentage you should take, because you have no idea what the overhead are that they're dealing with, how much it's taken them to get that gig. So this is a big can of worms. It's a very big topic to discuss. But yeah, so you're serving two different markets, if you like, unless the speaker is an exclusive. And this is where it blurs. The lines blur between manager, agent, and bureau. They blur dramatically because the models have changed, and I'm sure Yogi can contribute to that too. But anyway, I think we're coming to an end now. You've put me on the spot. Thank you, James.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I'm always interested because it felt like it's coming from the music industry where things were quite clear, the agency, and then going to this industry, the speaking and the events, this type corporate events industry, they felt like there was a difference there, and I could feel, I could see it in the agreements as well that the parties were operating in a slightly different way. But so once again, Maria and I were talking about this. If you're a speaker watching this just now, go to a lawyer. Go and get a good speaking agreement. It will pay you back time and time over if you have a good speaking agreement.
Or put your gigs through a bureau or an agent. That's the other way to do it, of course. And let them handle it for you.
Let them do the hard work. Exactly.
Let them have that stress. Yeah. So James, what tool or app or gadget are you loving at the moment?
Well, talking about controversy, because you and I have different views on this, I'm actually quite enjoying Clubhouse. This is an app that's taken off. It was an invite-only thing. It's just like going through the roof, this app. It's a social media, new social network, because we absolutely need more social media networks, social networks. But this is audio only. And at first I was very reticent about it, like you, kind of getting involved. But I've actually been enjoying practice audio, so I don't have to, it's not on Zoom. There's actually quite interesting conversations that are going on. There's these really big ones where people are just talking about their industry or stuff. The ones I've been really enjoying is, as a speaker, I'm always looking for stories and interesting and different perspectives. So I've been actually spending time on ones like last night, I was in a group, the Black Feminist Writers Group. And it was fascinating. I know nothing about Black feminist writing, but it was really interesting. And that kind of sparked for me. So the way I feel about this app, Clubhouse, is an invite-only one app just now, but it feels almost like a little bit like the party line that we used to have, phone lines, if you remember, if you're that old to have party lines, mixed with like 1920s Paris salons, where you just had really interesting kind of conversations going on. And so that's mine. Clubhouse, I think check it out. You don't have to jump in heavy. Just be a lurker for a little while. See if you like it. If you don't, leave it.
I mean, as you know, I am resisting. People are saying to me, come and join. I am resisting. I'm resisting because I don't have the bandwidth. The bandwidth. Maybe when I have more time, but I don't want to get sucked into yet another social media platform. Otherwise, I'm going to be.
Your theme this year is, your word this year is simplify, Maria. Anyway, so you need to.
My word for the year is simplify. Absolutely, absolutely. But never say never, because I've said that before and it doesn't work. So
Maria, so what's yours?
Well, yeah, my app is actually something we've been using for years in the business, and it's there and you forget about it because it's just so easy, and you use it regularly, obviously. But It's Xero, spelt with an X, Xero, and it's an accountancy and bookkeeping app, and it just keeps everything organized, and it's so easy. Like when I have to do a VAT return, which I've done all my VAT returns on time, I've done all my tax returns on time, I've paid everything on time, I haven't actually taken a break. You just press a button. And in fact, it's done, it's done, it's submitted and it's done. It's really great. You can see exactly where you're at any point in time in terms of your profit and loss, in terms of your balance sheet, in terms of how the business is going, how much money you owe, how much money is coming in, what the payments are like. It's great. It just allows you to manage things really well. And it works in several different currencies, which is so important for us because we work in 3 different currencies. So Xero is my tool of the week.
And what that tool is great, it has a machine learning AI going underneath it as well. So when you come, I know we use it as well, and we're big fans of Xero. When it comes to reconciling your bank accounts, different bank accounts every week, every month, it remembers, this payment here to British Telecom is your phone bill. So it doesn't even have to bother you, and it's just like click, click, yes.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Yeah. That's a very nice feature.
It's true. When we first got it, actually, because Audrey handles all of that for me, but Audrey and I used to fight as to who's going to press the reconcile button. So I leave it to her now. She gets a lot of satisfaction pressing that reconcile button.
So have we got any questions from anyone just before we start to finish up? Any comments from anyone here as well?
A lovely comment earlier on from a Facebook user not identified saying, what a refreshing human conversation. I think that was for Yogi rather than for us. Yeah, he's a refreshing human.
He took the quality up for this episode, definitely.
And the age rage down.
That's true. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining us. You want to go to This Week in Events, and there's all the links to things we've been talking about this week. My name's James Taylor, keynote speaker on creativity, innovation, and artificial intelligence.
And I'm Maria Franzoni. Lovely to see you, and see you next week.
See you next week.